Hi there, it's Miss Morgan. I'm going to read the reading that goes with the note sheet entitled The Constitution and the Right to Equal Protection. How did the Constitution end unfair treatment of citizens by government? Although the 13th Amendment abolished slavery in 1865, it did not end unfair treatment of African Americans by government. Many states in the South passed laws that discriminated against Black people. State and local laws require that public facilities such as restrooms, theaters, and parks have separate areas for Black people and white people. Congress adopted the 14th Amendment in 1868. The Equal Protection Clause is stated in Section 1 of the amendment. It is the most important constitutional protection that the people have against unfair discrimination by state and local governments. The Equal Protection Clause states that no state shall deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. At the time it was ratified, this clause was intended to prevent discrimination against African Americans and guarantee them the rights that go along with citizenship. The 14th Amendment did not by itself prevent discrimination, however. The states continued to pass laws requiring African Americans to go to separate schools and use separate public facilities. These laws came to be called Jim Crow laws. The states claimed that such laws did not violate the Equal Protection Clause because the separate schools and facilities for blacks were equal to those provided for whites. This is known as the separate but equal argument. Oops, guess I'm tired. The U.S. Supreme Court considered this argument in two famous cases, Plessy v. Ferguson in 1896 and Brown v. Board of Education in 1954. Okay, so now we are on the back, and you'll be writing notes about the case Plessy v. Ferguson. The general topic is, how did the U.S. Supreme Court interpret the Equal Protection Clause in two separate cases? Case 1, Plessy v. Ferguson, 1896. Paragraph 1. The state of Louisiana passed a law requiring railroad companies to provide separate, similar cars for white passengers and black passengers. A group of African American leaders decided to challenge the law. Paragraph 2. Homer Plessy bought a railroad ticket and took a seat in a car set aside for whites. Plessy was arrested when he refused to move. The Louisiana State Court found him guilty of violating state law. Plessy took his case to the U.S. Supreme Court, arguing that the Louisiana law violated the Equal Protection Clause. The Supreme Court ruled against Plessy. This is paragraph 3. The Supreme Court ruled against Plessy. The court said that separating the races did not mean that one race was inferior to the other. Because the state law required the facilities to be separate but equal, the Supreme Court said there was no discrimination. Fourth paragraph. The decision in this case, Plessy v. Ferguson, allowed states to practice segregation, separation of the races, for almost 60 years. Then, in the case of Brown v. Board of Education, 1954, the U.S. Supreme Court changed its interpretation of the Equal Protection Clause.